Alright, so as you can tell from the video title, today I'm going to be going over, was the E39 reliable, how much money did I spend on maintenance, preventative maintenance, what went wrong, all of that. I've got it all right here on this piece of paper, so I'm going to run through prices and then I'm just going to talk about the car in general. Alright, so we're going to start with preventative maintenance. These are things that 100% were perfectly fine, there was nothing wrong with them that I could visibly or physically tell. I was just changing them now instead of having to deal with it in the future when it broke. I had the fuel injectors ultrasonically cleaned, that was $60. I had a Spall electric fan put in, that was $100. I did the ECS tuning 90°C thermostat, that was $130. I changed out the radiator, that was $150, and coil packs for 7 cylinders was $200. So total on preventative maintenance was $640. Next, interior items. So none of these things actually change how the car functioned. It was just things that had worn out over time that I wanted to change, and it made the car look better. I changed out the phone tray for $10. The Pixel Fix Kit was $20. I guess that's technically functional. Windshield trim was $30. The dead pedal was $40. Center console tray, which is the little like cubby thing to your right with the scrolling door, that was $40. For the headliner, A, B, and C pillars, that was $100 for the glue and for the material. Window regulators were $150 for all 4. I had to replace all 4 window regulators. They were all bad. And then the sunroof mechanism, all the parts for that were $130. So for interior things that technically I could have just left alone if I didn't care, was $520. And then for the mandatory maintenance items, so these were things that were broken, not working properly, definitely needed to be changed. The oil cap for where you put engine oil in, that was leaking a little bit, that was $10. The side markers, one of these little covers had fallen off, so I had to replace those, that was $15. They're clear, so it's kind of an upgrade as well. The gas cap was not sealing properly and I was getting a check engine light. That was $20. The third brake light, the one in the middle, that has a tendency to melt on these cars, and that was $20 to replace the socket and the bulb. The heater hose that blew in the car while I was driving down the road, that was the only time I ever had to pull over on the side of the road to fix this car. That was $20 for a Gates, so like a name brand hose. The coolant expansion tank was $40. It was seeping just a little bit. Just around the seam, it was seeping a little bit. So it wasn't a big imperative thing, but I did need to change it. The ignition coil on cylinder number 6 went out on the car. That was $50 to buy it by itself. It's a little cheaper to buy 8 altogether than just buying 1. But that was $50. The crankcase vent valve on the back of the intake manifold, that was $60. The PowerFlex front lower control arm bushings was $85. So that's going to cause your steering wobble. A lot of these cars, when you get up to about 50 miles an hour, will have a lot of steering wobble and it'll settle out above and below that speed. You can replace them for cheaper than $85, but if you go with the polyurethane, it's never going to wear out. It's good for the life of the car. If you replace it with another factory style bushing or like a aftermarket one that's not as nice as an OEM one, it's just going to wear out again and you're going to have to replace it. So I just went ahead and did the upgrade. That was $85. So I could have done it for cheaper. I did have the brakes professionally bled. So on these cars, the ABS system is so complicated that you need a special pump to actuate all of the different little solenoids inside the ABS pump and make everything all happy and to get all the fluid out. So it was $120 to have that done at a independent shop. Normally, it would only cost me $20 to get it done, so I'm going to call that $100 of BMW specific maintenance. On a 350Z, I can just do it by myself. You can probably technically do it by yourself now that I got all the old fluid out. If I wanted to do it again next time, I would probably just do it myself. But that was $120. The mass airflow meter was $110. That broke. And the pre-Cat O2 sensors, I replaced those as well, and that was $120. So that brings total for mandatory maintenance items, everything that was broken and I had to fix if I wanted to do something like pass emissions or some sort of registration for your state, was $570. Now, that's $570 on a car that now has 167,000 miles on it. It definitely had a little bit of neglect in there somewhere at the end of the first owner's ownership. And I've had the car for over 2 years now. So $570 really isn't that bad for things that actually broke and needed to be replaced. Now, I didn't include things like oil or brake rotors or brake pads or anything like an air filter, things that are pretty much going to be the same for all cars. I mean, brake rotors for this car are the same exact price as they are for my 350Z. Brake pads are the same, engine oil, all that stuff, it's all the same. So I didn't include any of that. That's just maintenance you're going to have for any car. The total of all the money I've spent on this car on things not including like brake rotors and upgrades like the spoiler and different things like that was $1,730 to have what is almost a perfect E39. I mean, really, there's nothing wrong. Everything's immaculate. It's really good. There's a few like tiny little problems. For that money, I mean, the car was $4,000. I've put $1,700 into it. So for less than $6,000, this thing is amazing for that money. I mean, it's a 20-year-old BMW, and all I had to do was that. I mean, $570 for broken items, that's nothing. I mean, that's really not that bad. So the fact that people are like, oh, BMWs break all the time, and the maintenance is horrible, and everything's so expensive. I mean, yeah, this is going to be a lot more expensive if you did all of this at the dealership. If you can't do these things yourself, yeah, it's going to be a problem. But any 20-year-old car, things are going to break. So I don't see how that's any different. If you can't do this yourself, if you cannot work on a car yourself, you need to buy a newer car that's under warranty so that when things break, someone else will fix them for you. Because if you're going to own a 20-year-old car and you're going to try and save a 20-year-old car, it's going to be expensive. It's going to get expensive if you cannot do this yourself. I mean, if I did all of these things and I paid the BMW dealership to do it, I'm looking at like $4,000 at least of stuff that needs to be done. I think a lot of the bad stereotype of BMWs are expensive and Mercedes and Audi and all of these luxury brands is the people who buy them new don't take care of them. They just treat them like any other thing that they're going to use for a while and to discard and then buy a new one 5 years down the road. So they don't really care or take care of the car. They just do the bare minimum and just drive it back and forth to work and then ignore it and neglect it and don't take care of it. And then as it depreciates, it goes to someone else who doesn't take care of it. And then people get upset when things break. You need to maintain your car, whether it's a Honda or a Subaru or a Nissan or a Ford or a Chevy. It doesn't matter. You have to maintain it or it's going to break. This car has traveled around the world almost 7 times. It is like 60% of the way to the moon. It has done a lot of miles. It has been neglected for a little bit. It has been around for almost 20 years now, and it is in great shape. So based on this BMW that I've owned and the other one I owned before this in high school, I think these are extremely reliable cars as long as you take care of them. So as long as you stay on top of things and expect that as you approach 200,000 miles, you're going to have to start replacing things that are wear items. And yes, your cooling system is a wear item. Your ignition system is a wear item. Things like wheel bearings are wear items. There's just a lot of things that people don't want to spend money on, that they don't understand, that they don't care about, and then they get upset when it breaks after it's spent years and years and miles of service working flawlessly. So overall, I have no complaints about this car. None of the maintenance, none of the things I had to do were unreasonable. All of these things on the mandatory maintenance list are gaskets, bushings, or sensor based. And yeah, those things are going to wear out. They are wear items. People just don't want to replace them. The car only left me stranded one time. One time was I not able to get where I was supposed to go because something on the car broke, and that was when the heater hose blew on the side of the road. I could have cut the hose down and then still slid it over the barb and gotten to where I was going. I had just lost so much coolant and I didn't have more coolant with me. I just called an Uber, I got to where I was going, and I fixed the car later that evening with a hose that I picked up at the auto parts store. So it was really, really easy. It wasn't a big deal. It could have happened to any car at any time. It was just a fluke. So yeah, BMWs are reliable, but like any car, you have to take care of them. So if you have any questions or comments, or you want to comment on your own experience with a BMW, drop it below, hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys next week.